Hi, everybody. This is Chris,
And this is Matt.
and this is a new year. This is 2020, and we're back with our not reviews, our discussion.
Yep, our short game.
Short
We're
game.
starting the year off with a short game. We're going to ease into it, kind of.
I was gonna say we're gonna ease in with a short game, but are we easing in, Matt? The game we're
Yeah,
playing today is Impossible Mission. Well, not playing, watching, talking, discussing, um,
sharing,
sharing,
caring.
sharing our feelings. And I had a thought about it over because we talked a little bit we always talk about how we like our comment section.
Hmm.
And I look at other people who are like, oh, the comment section's so rough on YouTube. I think part of why we get away with it is we sometimes have very different opinions on the same game.
True.
I'm stating that because I got a feeling.
You were so sure I was going to hate this game.
I was pretty sure. Um,
What
and
what why what about my personality in this game made you think that?
I think it is a game that is before you were really into games,
True.
and it's a game that's fairly obtuse. Like it's.
Also true.
And there's not a lot of awesome moments in it.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
it's not a matter of I think you're not going to like it. I think most people, if I sat them down today having never played this in the past,
Hmm.
would not enjoy this game.
Yeah, I think that might be true. I think if you sat someone down in front of this game, though, the first thing they would say is, "What the fuck is going on with that computer thing?" Because I sat down with it, and I was like, it's a short game, so I usually like dive in and just see if I need to
Yeah,
go read the manual or whatever.
yeah.
And I was like, well, moving is intuitive. Like, I figured out that you're searching these things, but I was like, what is going on with this computer? Like, I didn't know what it was for, what it does. So my initial reaction was, what the fuck is this thing even doing? Because it's got all kinds of buttons on it, and it makes no sense. But I see you and say that I enjoyed playing Impossible Mission,
I am glad to hear it. There was
and
another reason I said I didn't enjoy
oh,
fantasy. I figured if I lowered the bar, that was your best chance. Like if I came in and went, this is a pivotal thing from my childhood. This is a game that really meant something to me. It was one of the first games I played on the Commodore. It puts a lot of weight on the game
yeah,
that it'll never live up to.
that's fair. So you were just lowering my expectations.
Lowering your expectations, getting you ready for this game. Sounds like successfully.
Yeah, my expectations were very low.
Okay.
Let's start it and take a look at what we're
Right.
dealing with. This is Epyx, who is definitely not around anymore.
No, and that's a dirty crime. We'll talk about why, because it's not due to their games, um,
Right,
which is too
right.
bad.
They released a lot of games. We were just looking at the list on Wikipedia of games, and I mean Wikipedia has them duplicated, but still,
Mm-hmm.
they released a lot of games at Epyx.
Yes. Okay. Before we start,
Hmm.
I'm gonna start the video, and I
Hmm.
want the intro audio
Okay. Okay.
because this game has that like voice synthesis.
Right.
It doesn't have music or anything. It's a fairly quiet game, really,
Yeah.
but it does have this. I might have gone too far back.
Another visitor. Stay a while. Stay forever.
I love that "Stay a while, stay forever." It's iconic.
Totally. Yeah, and he's got an accent, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. So that was all done by ESS, Electronic Speech Synthesis, which is
Mm-hmm.
some like Berkeley, California company. And the only other thing the only thing I knew from them before this was the Ghostbusters game.
Oh yeah,
Where
yeah.
for the Commodore, where it goes Ghostbusters, and that
Yeah.
like kind of, which is pretty awesome. Like
Mhm.
I love that that voice synthesis on the Commodore.
Yeah.
Really great. So it started the game off right,
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back to history. Let's get
Okay.
through that. Because I think the company's got an interesting history that I want to talk about. We rarely care about the company. The developer was Dennis Caswell, or programmer was Dennis Caswell. This was the only game he released for the Commodore 64. He also wrote a game. The other one that I think is interesting is he wrote Phaser Patrol.
Never played it.
No, you probably wouldn't have. It's a Star Master style game for the Atari 2600 Supercharger. That's why I wanted to bring this up. The Atari 2600 Supercharger, for those who don't know, was this giant cartridge thing you put in and then hooked to a tape drive, so your Atari 2600 could play tape games.
Wow.
For it, and they were much better games, but you had to have this whole thing. And I remember back in the 80s having a fight with a friend who's like, I've got a game for Atari on cassette. I'm like, Atari doesn't play cassette.
Oh, and you were wrong,
I
huh?
was wrong. I was
Wow.
totally wrong.
Wow.
He had Firefly for it and was not a good game, but
Yeah.
whatever. It was a cool thing to see what you could do with this old tech and how you could change it and make it do something.
Yeah. Yeah, those days are over, unfortunately, of like add-ons for. I mean, there's a bunch of peripherals, but I don't really count those. But like, there was going to be the CD drive for the Super Nintendo, and then there
Yeah.
was like the Sega Master System.
It had like a wall of things you built up.
Yeah, it was a weird time, and it was a very expensive time in gaming because all that shit was always cost like $1 billion.
I love that people are like the guitars for Guitar Hero. We're like, oh, that's so unique. I'm like, man, you don't know.
Yep, you have no idea.
You have no
I
idea.
mean, we could talk about weird peripherals for days.
Oh,
Like, there's a billion
days.
weird peripherals, but
especially the early 90s. Like the 80s had some, and then the early 90s had just this explosion of just crazy, weird attempts at different joysticks, attempts at different like writing devices, and
yeah, there was everything.
Everything.
It was fun. Like when simulations were just starting to be like a viable, interesting thing you could do with a computer.
Mhm.
Man, they like came out with an interface for every fucking thing you could ever want to do. It was great.
What was that? Steel game controller. You know the one I'm talking about.
Was it ridiculous?
Steel Battalion?
Steel Battalion. I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
Oh
buddy.
my god, yeah. Yeah, it's like pedals and like two joysticks and a thing in the middle with 100,000 buttons on it.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, people at home, take a moment and Google Steel Battalion controller. We'll give you a moment.
It's a good time.
It's fantastic. It's like, what made it so expensive for the time too?
I know. All that shit, it was just unreasonably expensive.
Yeah. But it was new and niche market, and everything was a niche market, so.
Yep.
And some companies failed, like Epyx.
Yeah, you know what struck me was looking at the list of games that they made. They made games for every fucking weird system you could think of.
Except, have you noticed which one they didn't?
The NES.
The NES.
They never made an NES game, and they backed the wrong pony, and that's the end. That's the end of our friends at Epyx.
Yeah. They did that on principle.
I respect that. Like, I know why Nintendo had really strict licensing where you couldn't just, and it was all because of a fucking Atari and E.T. and all those just trash games that they shoveled out.
Atari didn't shovel them out, so that's the problem.
Right, that people just shoveled them out.
Right.
And so Nintendo was like, we cannot let this continue happening, so we're going to license.
Mm-hmm. And put a secure chip in our system so you cannot run it.
Yep. And Epyx didn't like that, and so they didn't make games for it. And instead what they did was made the Atari stuff. They kind of got in bed with Atari and did the hardware for the Lynx.
Did some of the hardware for the Lynx and tried to make a bunch of games for the Lynx. And part of why they got in bed with Atari is they were primarily a Commodore company when Jack Tramiel was at Commodore. When Tramiel left and went to Atari, he called them up and was like,
Oh.
come help. I'm trying to get this off the ground. And they're like, gladly. And here's the problem. Tramiel's Atari didn't like to pay its bills.
Oh, yeah, you got to pay those bills.
What he liked to do is not pay the bills, wait for the company to be nearly destroyed, buy them for a song, and absolve his debt. He's one of those guys where if you look at the early part of his life and everything he did, you're like, my God, this guy's a hero. And then he kind of becomes a villain at the end. Holocaust survivor, really ruthless businessman, but a ruthless businessman who was in it to bring technology. He's the one who came up with the making tech for the classes, not the masses. He wasn't trying to make the fanciest, most expensive thing out there. He's trying to get it to as many people as he could.
Yeah, which is laudable. That's laudable. Very laudable goal.
But the way he went about it was just not okay.
Yeah.
And so a lot of companies that sort of backed him in this new adventure at Atari ended up going away, which is too bad.
Yeah. And Atari's, like, I would love to see an Atari resurgence, but let's be honest, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
It can't.
Do you?
Oh, here's the thing. Even if Atari, the name comes back, it's not Atari.
Right.
Like it's just not. The company that it was is gone. You know.
Right.
Nolan Bushnell's not going to go back to Atari. The people who David Crane and the people who made that early Atari aren't going to go back to Atari. If you do an Atari now, you're stealing a name and wearing it.
Yeah.
So do I like the vibe and the nostalgia for stuff like Atari? Yeah. But it's gone.
Yeah. That's a shame. And the Lynx didn't help.
The Lynx didn't help. The Lynx was a good system. It just ate batteries like a beast. And then Jack didn't want to pay anybody for working on it.
Yeah.
The guys who did Blizzard were trying to make called Gordo 106.
What's that?
It was a lab monkey that escaped and had to free all his friends in the lab from scientists.
Oh, yeah, it looks like fun.
And they were hired to do it on the Lynx. And guess who didn't pay them?
Wow.
You know, it's a bunch of stuff like that.
Huh.
So Epyx eventually collapsed. 1989, it declared Chapter 11, and in 1992 or 3, collapsed completely. All the rights have been bought by System 3. You probably don't know System 3 by name, but if you've ever heard the game The Last Ninja, which is really good, or at least I remember it being really good, we'll have to find out sometime.
Yeah, who knows, right? It could be
another auto duel. And that's my one per show.
They also got sued by Data East at one point. Yes. Epyx did for International Karate Champ. Is that what it was?
World Karate Championship.
World Karate Champion for violating the. What was it for? For violating the intellectual property of
Data East and Karate Champ. Data East was like, "This is our Karate Champ," and they're like, "This is a different game. This is like, you know." And I'm surprised there was never a lawsuit back in the Pac-Man clone days that went all the way through, but I guess they all settled. So this is the first one that, actually went to court.
Yep, and Epyx won.
Epyx won,
which is nice. Data East is probably most notable for Burger Time.
Burger Time, Karate Champ. They did a bunch of arcade. Let's see if there's another game we can think of from.
We're getting into like What was that game we were going to play? 6 Degrees of who's that guy? That
Brian Fargo.
Brian Fargo, yeah.
6 Degrees of Brian Fargo. I don't think you'd ever get to 6 with most video games. I think you have to literally leave video games to get to 5 and 6.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much the history of Epyx.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice little hop you're doing. I didn't know you could take little hops like that. I was taking always big hops.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. So there's so much to talk about for a tiny game that I thought was going to be like 5 minutes.
I know.
Just out of the history. Here's my question. Did you play that you center myself? Trying to use words.
Something about Brian Fargo and
something about Brian Fargo just jostled my mind. We did mention that you played it, that you didn't beat it. It was hard. Then I uploaded my play on the play channel we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Did you look at that and then go back and try and do anything from that? It's this video, but
no, I just I just kept trying to explore as much of the world as I could, because there's like 36 rooms or 32 rooms in this thing.
Yeah.
So at one point I was like, okay, I'm just going to see as many of them as I can. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I found there's like a weird mini game where where it like lights up notes, and you think it's going to be like Simon. And again, you have to read the manual. It's not like Simon. You're trying to sort them by ascending pitch or descending tone. I don't remember which.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like, that's a weird ask.
It's a weird ask, and it's so much harder than just memory.
Right.
And the other thing about every time you play this game, the rooms are randomized. The way the robots act are memorized. There's like 5 or 6 robot things. And again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. All right. Describe the gameplay. You go, because apparently I've had too much coffee or something.
All right. So you're this dude who's like wearing a tank top.
I thought it was a leotard, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, it could be. It could be a union suit or a leotard, or I think it is a leotard, you're right. And he is kind of like ballet in his movements.
Yeah.
Probably
tactical leotard.
Totally. Probably would be played by a young Tom Cruise in the movie, because this is basically Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the words reversed. Yeah, this is the mini game. Fuck this thing. And so you're going through all these rooms, and you're trying to get like key things. They're like tiny little pixel images. And apparently, like the evil mastermind you're battling has hidden all of them in his furniture. This is in the manual, by the way. I'm not cracking wise.
No.
He like hid it all in his furniture, as one does with their passwords.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going through his weird catwalk-based lair and trying to collect all of them, and then for some reason assembling them on your Epyx brand wrist computer so you can defeat him. And that's basically the game. And it's all populated by robots, and they're trying to thwart you. And that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
No. But I've got like so many things to say about it. Like, first thing, it's all robots in his lair. There's no people here. Why does he have vending machines? Who are the vending machines for?
He's a nerd, man. Nerds love to eat out of vending machines.
That's true. That's absolutely true. If you read the instructions for this game is completely like taking the piss out of its intended audience.
Totally.
The villain is this loner video game player who's sick of the world, edgelord, and like just a jerk to his parents and mean to everything, and he only spends worrying about getting high scores on games and stuff. It's like
right. The backstory is great. So he's like he like is like inches away from getting the max score on a video game, and the power goes out.
Yeah.
And so his reaction to that, and it's not like it was anyone's fault or anything. It just like went out. So of course, what one does instead of playing the game again is to spend the next 20 years learning about robotics so you can destroy the world. Like that makes total sense. Fantastic.
Oh my god. I'm glad I didn't see the instructions when I was a kid.
Would it have hurt your feelings?
No, but like I liked this game a lot, but I can't imagine how much I would have loved this game knowing that was the backstory.
Yeah. It's pretty good though. Like it's fun. Like it's definitely not taking itself seriously, which I
No.
really like.
Yeah.
And the thing I forgot to mention is along with finding the key cards, you also find things to disable the robots and things
Like
to
that.
reset. Yeah, that was one of them. And things to reset the lifts back to their original position, because you can get in a jam where you need those lifts back where they were, so you can get out or whatever. And that's it.
Right.
And it's randomized, which is super interesting.
Mm-hmm. And the whole thing's on a time limit. You can
Right.
every time you die or call the computer for help, you lose some time. So you can die as many times as you want as long as you've got time left.
Right.
You've got 6 hours to beat the game. It should take you about half an hour if you want. The North American version has a bug though.
Yes, it
NTSC.
does.
Yeah.
I encountered the bug.
Did you finally?
You're talking about when the walls are randomly electrified and just kill you?
Mm-hmm.
I randomly electrified not even against the wall a few times.
No, it's not that you have to touch the wall. It's when a robot goes to the far left of the screen and shoots its beam off the screen,
Oh.
you die, no matter where you
that's
are.
what happens.
Yeah.
I see. That is a problem. And if you hit it, your only choice is really to reset, or if you're using save states, I think you can reload your save state and it won't happen. Or maybe
It'll still happen, but what you can do most of the time, right by the entrance to a room, there's a computer that lets you snooze the robots. So if you need something in there, go in with a snooze the room, get the stuff you need, get out before they wake up.
Yep.
But like the first time I loaded this up this time to play, I hit one where 5 of the first 10 rooms were all bugged.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I thought it was some hack protection that I was running into. I'm like, what?
Right. And it's quite frustrating when that happens. And really, so I think that the biggest issue with this game is the time limit. I don't like that, because where this game is fun, it's fun in that way where you're incrementally figuring out how to do something, and you go into the room with a plan of what you're going to do, and the plan goes wrong sometimes, and you have to react, and you're not just screwed. And that is what makes it successful, those moments. But when you punish me in that way where you die and you lose time, you can't really have that experience, because you know that you're basically screwing yourself by losing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but okay, here's my question for you then. What's the challenge? Take away the time limit. What keeps you from just throwing yourself at this until you win? Like, do we do a guy count? Do we give you hit points? Do we, what is...
I would say still have the time limit, but don't penalize me for dying. Because then I'd still be failing over and over and getting stuck, and I'd have that in my mind, but I would, I would have a better sense that I could keep trying versus hitting a point where you're like, well, I've died too much. Now I'm
That's-
just wasting my time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes sense.
So my getting back to the manual, there's a picture of the guy in the manual, and I already said that I think Tom Cruise would play the good guy.
Uh-huh.
Who's your pick to play the bald guy? Uh-oh. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, my Hangouts just freaked out.
Oh.
Who's your pick to play the bad guy?
So you asked
Because
me this.
there's a picture of him in the manual.
Uh-huh. And I had several choices. But I gotta go with Jason Alexander.
That's a great one. That's a great choice. My pick was David Cross from Arrested Development.
I can see that.
I think he would be hilarious at it. I think that would be. Let's get this thing made, man. Let's start that second Patreon or whatever. I don't know what people do.
Start Kickstarters, they're never gonna finish.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't say that because like Mark's doing a good job, Scald is doing a good job.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Kickstarters out there.
I've got a couple I'm a little bitter at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm real picky about what I back on Kickstarter, but it doesn't make me mad when if something happens and it doesn't,
Right. No.
It all goes back to me never getting emotionally invested or optimistic about anything. It's a way you can live, yeah. Yep. I'm just like one mood all the time. Never happy, never sad.
I try to let myself get excited sometimes. It feels good. Even if it ends up biting me sometimes.
Yeah.
It's that Butters comment. Well, Stan, I'm sad now, but that means I was happy before. Instead of a wussy little bitch.
Yep. I think it was the Star Wars prequels where I was like, never again, yeah. I'm not gonna do it ever again. I really hated those movies.
They were not good.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, never gonna feel that way again, but I still feel that way.
Yep, I'm in therapy about it, so
okay.
It's fine.
All right.
So getting back to this thing, the controls I thought were pretty good. Like it's got kind of that organic jumping feel where it's not like immediate. The thing that I think I liked the most was that all the robots all have different programming.
Yeah.
And you can figure out their behavior, and it's usually different. And I think that's great. Like it makes the game really dynamic. The other thing that really impressed me was I don't know why this impressed me, but it did. It remembers how much you searched, so you can like search through this guy's bed or whatever, and then run away when the robot comes, and then come back, and you don't have to start searching over again.
Every room is its own puzzle in addition to the overarching puzzle you're trying to solve. We're talking about what's our high point and our low point in the game. Like we want to start doing like a peak and a pit.
Peak in the pit.
Peak in the pit. My peak was that I finally beat this. I had to use save states, but I finally beat it. My pit was sort of on the end of like the opposite side of what you're saying, where it's neat that it's random, but because it's random, it can create a situation you cannot win.
Mm-hmm.
You have to use a snooze thing, and even then you might have to use 2 snooze things to get through a room. Which creates an interesting, like, you're only going to get so many of them in a game. So do you use them in this room? You can't use them in every room. You got to make those choices. But it still sticks with me a little bit when it's like, okay, you have no choice. This is just a shit room, and you can't even try and do tactical. It's not a ease your burden situation. This is tough.
Yep.
So
my peak was I was in a room, and I froze the guys, and this is where I learned that they unfreeze. And I had this great moment where they unfroze, and I like leapt off the thing and like landed on the platform, and it was just perfect. And I felt really awesome. And that's where this game is good. I think, where like I said, where you have a plan, the plan goes wrong, and you can recover with your own wits and like sometimes you'll forget where if the platform goes up or down, and you'll
Mhm.
feel this great sense of relief when you can use the elevator correctly. So those moments were my peak. My pit was like really, really struggling with a room. Uh, and this comes back to being randomized. So I was really struggling with the room. I finally beat the room. I got to the end, and there was just nothing in the room.
Yeah.
Or like I think what I did was I struggled, I got almost to the end, and then I ended up using a room freeze thing to get the last, because there's sometimes you have to use those
Yeah.
to get to the last piece of furniture, and I searched it, and it was another robot freeze thing. So it was like I just wasted all that time.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's sort of one of my suggestions for gameplay of if there's one thing that's hard to get in a room, come back. If you just got one piece of furniture left, come back. You may not need it. It may not hold a clue. It may not be something. So
Right.
go through. The game's not that big that you won't be able to get back to it at the end after you've explored the whole
Right. Right. And you can kind of keep track, or if you're a completist, you can just like go back and notice that there's stuff
thing.
left in the room, and you'll know like, this was a mess. But yeah, you can, if you're good at the ascending, descending pitch game, you can get extra stuff
Yeah.
by doing that. It takes time, of course, but
But everything does in this.
yeah.
I was gonna say something about that. Lost it.
Yeah. Overall, I thought it was a pretty fun game.
Yeah.
Like I could see beating this being a very rewarding experience that I will never ever have.
It's not the sort of game you would think to sit down and play today. You know what I mean? But I had a good time. I like playing it. Um, I love the colors.
Yeah. Yeah, I was confused by that, and I looked in the manual. Is there a rhyme or reason to the color of the hallways, or is it just kind of random?
I think it's just something to kind of change it up with the Commodore's palette. There's not a lot to work
Yeah,
with.
right.
Um,
Totally.
I remember what I was going to say. You're talking about controls and changing things around. Normally, with a platform game, especially from this era, you don't have the amount of subtle controls with your guy. Like you
Hmm.
were talking earlier, like, oh, that's a neat little hop you did there. If you know the gaps, you can step across some gaps, and it says that in the manual at the end under tips.
Right.
But where you jump, like they're like, if your foot's not completely down yet, you can still jump, and there's some pixel perfect jumps that you need to make to get to certain ledges, or
Hmm.
time yourself to get to places, or you want to fall off to land at the right momentum on a certain spot. There's a lot you can do with what is essentially a very simple platform game, and it still feels rewarding to control.
Right. It's responsive. It's not frustrating. Like
Mm-mm.
a lot of times you really have to nail some really difficult timing things uh, when you're dealing with the robots, and there's a lot of real surprising amount of difficult platform jumps.
Yep.
Uh, but you can do it. Like
Yeah.
it's not where you're fighting the controls the whole time. Oh, watch out!
Yep. No, that was one of the things I was.
You gotcha.
You got me. Uh, I never, with the exception of the bug, ever felt the death wasn't my fault, which
Right,
is rare in a game.
right. That is true.
I also just
Uh,
want to talk about that ball robot that comes to get you and how much it reminds me of the prisoner.
the prisoner, totally. I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
has a take on a lot of uh, sci-fi 60s era, like the Doctor Who Dalek style robot guys. I always thought they were a little
yeah.
Dalek-y. The secret agent stuff, the prisoner references.
I like
Oh.
that you could kind of get hints about how the robot was going to behave by the way it looks. Like the electricity always comes out of a certain part,
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of like guess if it's going to shoot you or not.
Yeah. There's certain ones you're like, oh, that one's going to blast me. I know it. And other ones are like, no,
Yep.
I'm just going to sit here.
Right. And that can be frustrating because sometimes you just have to take a chance on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like, okay, I'm gonna go up this elevator and we'll see if I die.
Yeah.
Which isn't super fun, but
No.
it's, you know, it's the game. Yeah.
The modem noises when you call in. Did you call in for any hints and stuff from the modem or the pocket computer?
No, I didn't. I never used that.
Oh my
I was
god.
too busy dying.
It's so funny because you can ask if you hit the keypad on the bottom, you can ask it to align a piece in the side in the correct position, or ask if you have enough pieces to solve one of the puzzles. It takes a
Right.
couple minutes off your time, but you can find out, you basically get a couple hints towards playing the game, which I think is a nice built-in help you out.
Let's talk about the wrist computer and what you're doing with it here.
Mhm.
So you collect these pieces and then you assemble them, right? And you can
Yeah.
flip them around. You can delete them from your display.
You'll always have them on the left because those are the pieces you have. Once
Yep.
you put one together, it will take the pieces out of the left. Thank God.
Right.
And then it gives you a little letter at the bottom as to what the passcode is to get into his evil sanctuary.
Yeah. And it's super confusing
Mm-hmm.
unless you read the manual.
Mm-hmm.
Read the manual.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't have someone to show you through this or have us talk you through or anything like that, you're going to need to read the manual.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's funny. Like, it's a good read. I really enjoyed the manual.
So you said the thing you would do to fix it, make it better, is you would take the time penalty away from dying. It's already got a time limit. It's already got enough going on.
Yep.
Don't need to do that. If you did that, I think we'd need to shrink it from 6 hours. Maybe put
Oh, yeah.
an hour,
Yeah.
hour and a half time limit on it.
Totally.
My thing that I would do to add is on the map, mark which rooms still have furniture in them. It's not a big change, but that would be huge.
That would be really nice. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I think that's all I had about this game.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Manual's short. Controls are the controls.
I was impressed that, like, the manual purports to be this guy's FBI file, but it's like written in this really unprofessional way. It says, like, oh, and there was that one time when I was
Yeah.
like, who is working
No.
at the FBI in this world?
Yeah, I'm going to jump sort of to the end here. Because I have both endings on this video. I'm going to die first.
Yeah, let's see the ending.
And then I'll show the actual ending.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was a close. You
Yeah.
do feel like, oh, I thought I was going in the pit.
Yep.
You have those moments. Oh,
The scream when you fall in the pit is pretty great.
the computer is called the MIA 9366B pocket computer.
Yep.
I
Made
do
by
like.
Epyx, I noticed.
Mhm.
They put their name on it. Their first foray into hardware, I guess.
This room is my least favorite room, by the way. I hate this room.
I hate platforming in general, so I'm sorry.
Okay. But this one, that second robot, there's usually some stuff there. It can screw you. But to get to that far candy machine they got there, you've got to be in exactly the right spot on the top platform to jump to the right platform. To basically, yeah, there's just several perfect jumps you have to make while robots are trying to get you.
Right, and those robots are fast.
Like that.
Oh, that one gotcha.
Some will speed up when they see you, and then this is the end. The border turns white and it shakes, and then it does this and gives you the high score.
Yep. That's that.
That's that. So
That's when you lose. Mission terminated.
Yep.
Let's see what happens when you win.
Yes, let's do that. Here comes. I think maybe loading a save state on this. So.
Oh. Did you save scum this?
This is the one I save scummed. The one I just played, I did not.
I approve of save scumming this game for the record. Oh, there he is!
There he is.
Mission accomplished. Congratulations.
Mission complete. Did he say something to you?
He says, no.
Oh yes, David Cross. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mission Impossible. I had a good time.
Impossible mission.
Sorry. Impossible
Great.
Mission.
Now we're gonna get a
cease and desist.
copyright strike on
Copyright strike because I said
YouTube.
Our
There we
second
go.
one. We're in the big leagues. We got one.
Right.
Yeah. For Alone in the Dark of all things.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The comment you made about the singer whose name starts with M.
Yeah. I don't think
And
that's
then
what triggered
Donna.
it. I think it was just somebody who is a copyright troll, but whatever.
Yeah.
So let's do our long game is Legacy of the Ancients.
Yay.
Kind of talked about that last time.
Great cover.
Great cover. Same people who made Questron. You can tell when you play it. It's the same people who made Questron.
Fully.
We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Our short game for the next part is we're going to do 2 games from Snacking On Software. This is going to be a bit of a change for us, and I want to kind of preface this because there are games like Scald, and I mention that game occasionally because it's got this retro-esque gameplay and pixels and stuff like that, but it's being done in Unity, it's being done for modern hardware, it's a throwback, and for the same reason, I wouldn't do, what are some of the games I'm thinking of? Dead Cells or Blasphemous. They're retro-esque, but they're not retro.
Right.
But I do want to do something like Darkstar and they do Oids. There's another company we'll probably be looking at later in the year. I'm going to try and get more new games on old hardware. If the hardware is old, if the hardware is 20 years old, I'm going to count it as something in this sphere.
Totally.
And in this case, it will be Darkstar, Unhinged, and Oid Zone. 2 Apple II games put out last year by Michael Packard at Snacking On Software.
Yeah. It's just exciting. I like new games on old hardware. I hope that's a trend that continues.
I think it will. I think it seems to be something people are continuing with, so I'm happy about that. And then, of course, not going away.
Nope.
But we are in a tough spot.
We're in a jam, and we had to get through the holidays without being obsessed with getting out of that dungeon in Deathlord. So, but now we're coming back next Thursday, the 20-something?
23rd? 23rd.
Sure.
Thursday the 23rd. 9-ish Central Time.
9 to 9:15.
Yeah, depending on how good we are at starting things. We'll be back on. And I have a plan.
Yep.
I have a strategy.
Stay tuned and be amazed.
It's a good belief.
Yeah. Or be distracted.
Just spend some time with us goofing around. We'll chat. We'll talk. We'll laugh. We'll cry.
I'll get mad. I'll get furiously mad again.
I don't think so. I think if we're not out in like 15 minutes, we'll disband and reform the party.
All right.
On that note, talk to everybody later.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Big thank you to all of you watching, sharing, liking, subscribing, suggesting games, commenting on our videos, or supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate all of your support and look forward to sharing many more videos with you. Thank you again.